Here are some examples of how to refer to different subject types. Working from the top left, you see examples specifying a user and a group. On the bottom left, you have an example of a service account subject where the service account name is default and the namespace is specified as Cube System. Note that you cannot assign Kubernetes RBAC permissions to Google Groups. You can only assign Cloud IAM permissions to a Google Group. However, Kubernetes supports groups too, and you can assign Kubernetes RBAC permissions to Kubernetes groups. In this example, you can see that administrators have created a group called developers. In the right column, you have more group types. The example includes all service accounts on all namespaces. Note that this is a system group, so it can be used for RBAC in GKE environments. The middle example on the right includes only the service accounts in the QA namespace, and the example on the bottom right includes all authenticated users. Now that you've defined cluster roles, you can attach role bindings and cluster role bindings to those roles. Let's attach a role binding first. Define the namespace, then the subjects. In Kubernetes, subject kind can be users, groups, or service accounts. Note that subject name is case sensitive. With RBAC and GKE, the type of account that you can control access for is either a Google account, a GCP service account, or a Kubernetes service account, and they are identified using an email address. You bind a role to subjects in the role binding using role ref by defining the role kind and the role name. A role binding can refer to roles or cluster roles. If a cluster role is bound in a role binding, it only grants permissions to the resources of the particular namespaces defined for the role binding, and not to the entire cluster. Here, a cluster role is defined. A cluster role grants permissions at the cluster level, so there's no need to specify a namespace. API groups is defined in the same way as it is defined when creating a role. Resources can be cluster scope, such as nodes and storage classes, or they can be namespace resources, such as pods and deployments. Here's an example of a cluster role binding. Note that namespace isn't mentioned because a cluster role binding always has a cluster-wide scope. Note that a cluster role binding can only refer to a cluster role, not to a role. With Kubernetes RBAC, you can manage granular permissions for the people, using users and groups, and for containers, using service accounts, at both the namespace level and the cluster level. Resources and verbs are bound using either roles or cluster roles. Roles and cluster roles are then bound to subjects using either a role binding or a cluster role binding. A variety of cluster roles and cluster role bindings are also predefined within the RBAC system. The Kubernetes documentation offers more information. When you create roles and cluster roles, you should take into account whether a resource is associated with a namespace or defined at the cluster level. You can use the kubectl API resources command to list which resources are namespaced and which are not. Typically, cluster-level resources should be managed with cluster roles, and namespaced resources should be managed using roles. However, if you need to define RBAC permissions across multiple namespaces, then you'll need to use a cluster role.